The agreement between Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers is a matter of money, the millionaire contract the QB wants. The veteran quarterback wants to make his vast experience count. The Pittsburgh Steelers continue their ongoing saga alongside quarterback Aaron Rodgers. At 42 years old, he has the organization on edge as they await his decision on whether he will return for the 2026 season. Negotiations between both parties have stalled, and everything suggests that the holdup revolves around a very specific issue. The player wants to return to lead the Steelers' offense heading into the 2026 campaign. However, there is a powerful reason why his return to the franchise has not been finalized, and it has now become a significant obstacle. According to a former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, the reason Rodgers has not put pen to paper is tied to the amount being offered and what he expects to earn for the upcoming season. Why Aaron Rodgers has not signed with the Steelers, according to Charlie Batch. From the perspective of the former Steelers signal caller, who shared his thoughts on his Snap Count podcast, money remains the main factor preventing positive news for the AFC North franchise. This is a guy who outplayed his contract. This decision is coming down to money. The Steelers would like him to come back, yes, but it's not going to be the $13 million number. I'm sure Aaron, at some point, and I have not spoken to him, but I'm sure his representatives are wanting something close to $30 million, and you hope that somewhere you meet in the middle. It is worth recalling that for the 2025 season, Rodgers played under a $13 million contract, which, from many perspectives, was considered a bargain given his level of performance. After the season he delivered, his value increased, and he is now seeking a higher salary, which has stalled progress in closing the deal. What the Steelers should prioritize heading into 2026. The major question is whether both sides can reach an agreement for Aaron to return for one more year in black and gold. It is speculated that his contract could jump from $13 million to $30 million, a figure that would significantly impact the franchise. Moreover, for a 42-year-old player, that valuation is questionable. The organization should begin to look toward its younger talent and rebuild from there, much like it did with Ben Roethlisberger, a strategy that ultimately paid off with a championship and another Super Bowl appearance. However, the market appears to support Rodgers' stance. In 2025, Geno Smith and Justin Fields secured better deals than he did, yet their performances fell well short in comparison. At the moment, there does not seem to be common ground between the two sides, which could ultimately lead to a final split, and Rodgers might no longer be playing in the NFL. In Pittsburgh, they must carefully manage their salary cap to continue reshaping the roster and regain a highly competitive level. The Steelers' owner issues an ultimatum to Aaron Rodgers and sets a deadline for a final answer. Rodgers is yet to commit his future to Pittsburgh as the 2026 NFL Draft approaches. The Pittsburgh Steelers owner, Art Rooney II, has effectively set a deadline for Aaron Rodgers, making clear the franchise expects a firm decision on his future before the 2026 NFL Draft begins in April. The 42-year-old Rodgers is coming off a one-year stint in Pittsburgh, remains undecided about whether he will return, and that uncertainty has prompted the organization to push for clarity as roster planning intensifies. "I still expect that," Rooney told Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on Sunday at the annual league meeting in Arizona. "I expect we'll get an answer before the draft. When I talked to him and Omar Khan talked to him, he told us he wasn't going to take as long this year as he did last year to make a decision," Rooney added. "I'm not 100% sure what that means, but I expect something before the draft." The timing is significant because the draft, which begins April 23rd in Pittsburgh, represents a critical inflection point, and the Steelers need to understand whether quarterback remains an immediate priority. Rodgers' 2025 performance, meanwhile, complicates the decision, as he delivered solid production across the regular season, helping Pittsburgh to a division title, yet the playoff exit exposed limitations. But the Steelers' internal optimism, however, is tied in part to the presence of Mike McCarthy, who previously coached Rodgers in Green Bay and whose arrival has reopened the possibility of a reunion. "Yes, it'd be a great story," McCarthy said. "I don't know. I would love to tell everybody there is breaking news. It's really cool to see Aaron at 42 and to see a young man at 22 and all that he's been able to accomplish and where he's at in his personal life and trying to make this decision. He's in a really good place, but I think he's in a really good place." Why did Rooney set Rodgers a decision deadline in Pittsburgh? Rodgers completed 65.7% of his passes last season, and while his touchdown-to-interception ratio remained efficient, the offense struggled in key postseason moments, particularly under sustained pressure. The Steelers' hope for Rodgers returning is closely tied to Mike McCarthy's arrival, who coached Rodgers for 13 seasons in Green Bay, including a Super Bowl XLV victory, a 15-1 season, and multiple NFC title appearances, which sets a familiar environment for a reunion. Rodgers, 42, finished the 2025 season completing 65.7% of his passes for 3,322 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, yet he played the final 6 games with multiple fractures in his left wrist, a challenge that contributed to Pittsburgh's postseason loss to the Houston Texans. In that wildcard defeat, Rodgers was 17 of 33 for 146 yards with 1 interception and took 4 sacks, highlighting inconsistencies under pressure and raising concerns about his durability if expected to lead the Steelers for another season. At the same time, Pittsburgh's quarterback room lacks certainty because both Mason Rudolph and Will Howard represent fallback options rather than definitive long-term answers, increasing the stakes of Rodgers' decision. From a strategic standpoint, the Steelers hold multiple draft selections, and therefore clarity on Rodgers will directly influence whether they target a quarterback early or continue building around a veteran-led roster. Rodgers has historically taken time to make off-season decisions, including last year when he delayed signing until June minicamp. This offseason, Rooney and Khan hope for a quicker commitment, emphasizing the importance of clarity before the draft begins on April 23rd in Pittsburgh. Geno Smith returns to the Jets after his stint with the Raiders. Aaron Glenn wants him as the starting quarterback. Smith will become Justin Fields' replacement for the 2026 NFL season. The New York Jets have made a definitive quarterback decision, as Geno Smith returns to the franchise and is immediately installed as the starter, with head coach Aaron Glenn publicly confirming the move. Glenn's announcement, moreover, formalizes what had been expected since the trade, because the Jets acquired Smith with the clear intention of starting him, and the current depth chart offered no realistic competition for the role. "No doubt about it, he's our guy," Glenn told Judy Batista of NFL Media. "It means to have a bona fide starter come in and lead this offense to where it needs to go. Listen, he's done it a couple of years. Those years in Seattle when he was, I think, comeback player of the year. Man, he was up for MVP early in the season. There's no doubt in my mind that we brought a competent here on this team." The supporting quarterbacks, meanwhile, bring limited experience, as the group has only a small number of combined starts, and therefore the organization's decision reflects both necessity and a preference for a proven veteran presence. The Jets, furthermore, acted before Smith could reach free agency, as they completed a March trade to secure him, and in doing so, they avoided a competitive market while ensuring they controlled the terms of his arrival. Smith's recent performance, however, presents a mixed evaluation, because while he produced at a high level in previous seasons, his most recent campaign included elevated turnover numbers, which contributed to concerns about consistency. Smith returns to New York on a team-friendly deal for the Jets. The financial terms, meanwhile, reduce the immediate burden on the Jets, since his previous team retained the majority of his salary, and as a result, the organization can assess his performance without long-term financial exposure. The move also represents a return to the franchise that drafted Smith because he originally played for the Jets from 2013 to 2016, and his tenure ended following a series of disruptions, including the loss of his starting role. That earlier chapter, notably, was altered by an off-field incident that led to injury and consequently opened the door for a replacement, which reshaped both his trajectory and the team's direction at the time. Now, in contrast, Smith arrives with established credentials, including Pro Bowl selections and multiple productive seasons, and therefore he is expected to bring stability to a position that has lacked continuity. The Jets' broader plan, however, indicates this may not be a long-term solution because the organization is still evaluating future quarterback options, yet at the same time, immediate improvement remains a priority. There is a practical dimension to the move since the available quarterback market was limited, and therefore the Jets identified Smith as the most viable option capable of stepping into a starting role without delay. Concerns remain, particularly regarding interceptions and overall efficiency, yet the team believes improved protection and offensive structure will help mitigate those issues and support more consistent performance. Ultimately, the decision reflects a balance between short-term competitiveness and long-term planning, as Smith is tasked with stabilizing the offense, while the Jets continue to search for a more permanent answer at quarterback. 49ers General Manager John Lynch delivers some bad news to the mother of Joey and Nich Bosa. The chances of a dream reunion in San Francisco have taken a blow. The San Francisco 49ers General Manager John Lynch delivered a blunt response to growing calls for a reunion involving brothers Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa, tempering expectations despite public lobbying from the Bosa family. The idea of pairing Joey with his brother gained traction in recent weeks, particularly as their mother pushed for it publicly, yet financial constraints remain a significant obstacle for San Francisco at Levi's Stadium. "I know Mama Bosa would love that, but I don't know if we can afford him," Lynch told reporters, admitting that while the concept is appealing, the front office must prioritize financial discipline for the 2026 NFL season. San Francisco entered the offseason with notable cap space. However, that flexibility has quickly narrowed as the organization committed funds to multiple additions, reshaping its roster while limiting room for another major signing. Recent deals, including veteran acquisitions and retained contributors, have consumed a sizable portion of available resources, and therefore any pursuit of Joey Bosa would require further financial maneuvering. San Francisco 49ers aim to patch up defense ahead of 2026 NFL season. The team's pass rush issues add urgency, as the San Francisco 49ers recorded only 20 sacks last season, the lowest total in the league, and consequently, the need for edge help remains evident. However, the current depth chart presents uncertainty because multiple edge defenders are recovering from injuries, including Nick Bosa, while other contributors are either unavailable or no longer under contract. Joey Bosa's market value, meanwhile, is projected to command a significant salary, and given his recent production, any deal would likely require a multi-million commitment that strains existing cap allocations. The organization has already restructured Nick Bosa's contract to create space, yet that decision pushed larger financial obligations into future seasons, complicating long-term planning and limiting present flexibility. At the same time, San Francisco must address the contract situation of Trent Williams, whose current cap figure presents another major financial consideration for the front office. "We've had good communication throughout," Lynch said. "I would say in the last week it's kind of intensified and feel like we're on the precipice of something good happening, but we'll see. This one's never got ugly. It's been very straightforward, direct, and I just think there's a lot of nuance to that situation. He's one of the great players, I think, to ever play the game." Despite those ongoing negotiations, the team appears committed to maintaining stability along the offensive line, and therefore reallocating funds toward another high-profile defensive addition becomes increasingly difficult. The 2026 NFL season is scheduled to begin on Thursday, September 10th, with the defending Super Bowl champions expected to host the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL kickoff game, marking the league's return to primetime action. The 49ers will play in the day's layer.